Alright, so as someone requested earlier today, I'm actually going to be doing my first ever unboxing, I guess. So basically what I have before me here is a collection of things that were sent to me by Blood and Pigment / Firelock Games for the game Blood and Plunder. For those of you unfamiliar, Blood and Plunder is a historically accurate pirate miniatures game set during the golden age of piracy. So starting off, first, I got the unaligned activation deck. Now, activation decks exist in the game, and essentially it is a deck of playing cards. Players activate models going back and forth playing cards from their hand. So this is a deck of normal playing cards, except for the back facing of each of them is going to be depicting some skull and bones. So that is the faction deck here. The prize package also came with another set of D10s. Now, these D10 don't feature any special symbols or anything like that. The game uses numerical dice, so technically any 10-sided dice will work. However, the ones officially from Firelock Games have a skull and crossbones on them. So next up, we're going to look at the box of sailors. Now, there's a bunch of different miniatures you can get for this game, of course, and this here is one of them. This is specifically supposed to be a plastic kit. So it's supposed to be a plastic kit with a bunch of different pieces that allow you to make all these different sailors, and from my understanding, it's a mix and match scenario to where you can kind of customize the way you want your pirates to look. So I hear something jingly in here, and I'm not quite sure what that is. I assume it's little bits and pieces, but we're going to find out. So I've actually already pre-cut these plastics just so I don't have to fumble with it on screen. Alright, that appears to be everything in the box. So we have some instructions here, and these instructions are basically ways to put together your different sailors. And as expected, that was the jingling. It's the bases. These little round plastic bases with wooden deck planking on them for you to glue your sailors on top of. It's neat. And then also, as expected, here is the sprues. So these are plastic miniatures attached to sprues. You have to clip these out, file them down, and actually glue the pieces together. As opposed to like some of their some of their white metal models, which are fully intact as one piece that you don't have to worry about assembly. So there's a little bit more work to do with a plastic kit like this, but there's a lot more customization available, and from my understanding, also leftover bits and pieces that you can use later on. Like I see a spear here and various cutlasses, all these different arm positions, some hats down here that are just by themselves, so you could always use leftover pieces like this to scatter around and add detail to little bits and pieces of terrain, so that's always cool. Everyone loves excess bits. And then over here on this sprue, we got more hats and heads and bodies and muskets and flintlocks and, you know, all the good stuff. So next up, we have the militia. And just like the sailors, the militia can be painted up in any way, shape, or form to represent militia of any given nation. Again, the jingling sound is more of these little round plastic bases. Some more instructions here on how to put them together. And, yep, that's what I expected. A bunch of bodies and torsos and arms and legs and hats and guns and cutlasses. And I see some axes in here as well. I'm sure I'll get a better grasp of how different these are from the sailors once I actually start putting them together. But, yep, collection of various things. And these can basically be put together to create militia who might be defending a structure or perhaps defending a port that you're attempting to plunder or your opponent is attempting to plunder. So we've also got this nice new rule book. Let's see if I can get it in here without a glare on it. A little hard to show off the full-size thing, but this is the Blood and Plunder Raise the Black rulebook. So from my understanding, there's also a hardcover version of this that exists. However, with this prize kit, I got the soft cover, but that's fine, and it complements my other two rulebooks I already have for Blood and Plunder. From my understanding, this seems to be a rehash of the overall rules on how to play the game, but also is an expansion of sorts that updates the game, because Blood and Plunder typically handles the Buccaneering Age up to about 1700 or so. However, the Blood and Plunder Raise the Black expansion updates the game up to 1718. Hence the cover featuring Blackbeard versus Lieutenant Robert Maynard. So, I'm not quite sure of everything that gets added in Raise the Black just yet. I haven't had too much of a chance to read through this book. I've only briefly flipped through it. But the book is full of, you know, nice illustrations and also photographs of various people's paint jobs. The book looks nice, as does the other rule books that the game puts out. So this is, you know, to be expected, really high quality. Something I've always enjoyed about Blood and Plunder. Everything seems to be a labor of love and really well done. So as part of the prize kit, there's also this little guy. Not sure if you can see. I mean, this is a white metal model. It has no wash applied to it, nothing to really bring out the details. So he might just look like a blur on screen, for all I know. But he is a little metal model of a commander. Typically, in Blood and Plunder, you and your opponent's force, or each player's forces, typically have a commander leading their models in the battlefield. Whether it's a land battle or a sea battle, everyone has a commander. And this isn't a specific commander. He can be painted up and used as a commander, again, for any nation, really. Just depends on how you want to paint him up and use him as you will. So, lastly, is the big thing. So the big thing is this nice box here. There we go. Of Blood and Plunder 18th Century Sloop. Now, this is a plastic kit. Before, Blood and Plunder came out with resin ships in the past, which are much more expensive than the hard plastic, but the new sloop kits are made also on the plastic sprues, kind of like what you just saw with the other miniatures. Now, there's some options to be built here as well, and they feature it here on the cover. All the pieces inside are able to be used to create either a Bermuda sloop or a Balandra sloop. So let's go ahead and open this up and show off what's in here. And there is a whole bunch of sprues in here. So I just pull out this huge stack. Some paper and the cards. All right. So for the sake of not cluttering up everything here, let me go ahead and just move some of this out of the way. All right. So first up, we have this sprue, which is the biggest sprue in here. Well, I guess the biggest pieces. But here you have the main deck, you have the back end or the aft end of the ship, and then you also have the poop deck. Now, all of these are, if you can hear that sound, they have a really nice texture to them. Now, all of this isn't smooth. I'm assuming the light is going to reflect it in such a way that you can see, but all the wood grain will really come out with dry brushing and doing washes over the model after it's been put together, of course, and primed. So we got this here of all these big pieces. We have these big pieces, which you can probably identify as the outer sides of the hull. Now you have a left and a right hand side for, I guess, the starboard and larboard side. And also here on the sprue are the various pieces you need for the prow of the ship, the decorative beak and such. And there's also a piece back here for the rudder. You can see that it has 4 different gun ports on either side, which of course you clip out and trim out and stuff, and you can poke the cannons through later on. We have this sprue here next, which, again, I'm really hoping the camera can pick this up well. But this one here has a bunch of different pieces. It's got your mainmast and all your bowsprit and all of your other pieces that you need. You got a lantern back here, all the windows that go on the back. Here's an anchor. Here's the cabin door. All the spars for hanging your sails and whatnot. So another cool sprue with a bunch of neat little bits and pieces. And then we have one last sprue, and this sprue is full of all the tiny pieces for putting the ship together. Now, by tiny pieces, I mean you have your cannon. So you have cannon pieces here along with all the pieces to put together each individual gun carriage. You have the whatever pounder cannon is supposed to represent, along with the left and right wall of the gun carriage. I assume there's some wheels on here for them somewhere. You got some swivel guns, you got your gun port hatches up here, and then you have all your little dead-eye pulleys and stuff that you can attach your rigging to over here and over here. So It definitely looks like it's going to be a project. From my understanding from other videos I've seen of people putting these sloops together, you can typically get this thing clipped out and glued together, usually in like an evening, and then maybe painting it might be a multiple day process and doing some rigging. So again, like the other sprue kits, there's also a little instructional paper here, which just shows your two sides of the hull that go together and your main deck that goes on, and how to put together your mast and everything else, and your bowsprit and the beak, and oh yeah, the figurehead. It comes with a figurehead of a mermaid, optional. And then lastly, we have the two different stat cards for the ship, however you decide to build it. Over here we have the Balandra, one of the two, and from my understanding it's a little bit slower. It has speed 4, but it's a little bit more durable with more hit points. And then over here you have the Bermuda sloop, which is a little bit faster, but a little more fragile. Again, from my understanding. I have not yet gotten a chance to actually play any naval combat in this game just yet, only on land. So I'm looking forward to having some ship-on-ship stuff, and maybe then I'll be able to understand all this a little bit better. And then on the flip side, it gives you some information on the different traits and the various upgrades that your sloop can have applied to it before you begin the game. Looks like the Bermuda sloop also costs a little bit more points-wise. It costs 14 as opposed to the Balandra's 10. But in any case, I wanted to go ahead and do this unboxing video. It's a little hard to show off, all these little sprues and little pieces. I don't actually have these miniatures put together to show off for the camera. And of course, the sloop isn't built yet. But I guess that's the definition of an unboxing. Again, I would like to thank Blood and Pigment and also Firelock Games, not only for coming out with this awesome game, Blood and Plunder, but also for the prize support package. I wasn't able to squeeze in as many games as I wanted during this year's Summer of Plunder event, of which this prize package is from, but I'm really happy I was able to get the prize support for being a new player in the game. What you guys have built together is a very awesome miniatures community that I commend, and, keep up the good work. So, again, hopping off here, just wanted to do an unboxing video. Hopefully this turned out well. Alright, later guys.